What if I told you that one bite of contaminated fish could cook an entire city in just 72 hours? That's exactly what happens in Ziam, where humanity faces one of its most terrifying nightmares. The zombie outbreak originates from microorganisms released from melting glaciers, which infected fish and created a deadly bacteria that spreads through the ocean. The apocalypse kicks off when millions of fish start dying from this bacterial infection, creating a massive food shortage that pushes Thailand to the brink of starvation. Then enters Mr. Vasu, a CEO of VS Corporation, who sees this crisis as a business opportunity and starts distributing this contaminated fish to desperate civilians during the food shortage. These greedy assholes will literally do anything to turn a profit, which is actually insane. The outbreak begins when Mr. Vasu's trusted associate and others eat infected fish and die, only to return as zombies shortly after. The virus spreads from this central contamination point in what appears to be a hospital setting before exploding into the general population within hours. What makes Ziam are the badass fight scenes where the main character Singh, a former Muay Thai fighter working as a delivery driver, gets thrown into this nightmare where he has to rescue his girlfriend Rin, a doctor trapped in that quarantined hospital with a young boy named Buddy. Singh's professional fighting background becomes absolutely crucial as he literally punches, elbows, and kicks to beat the shit out of zombies, which makes the action sequences brutal and satisfying to watch. The film's creators spent months researching actual military bioweapon programs, making every scientific detail uncomfortably plausible. As the outbreak spreads across the city, we see the government's desperate response, from emergency broadcasts to full lockdown, telling people to remain calm while jets are literally carpet bombing and damn near nuking neighborhoods to contain the virus. Now, what if you could collapse the entire world from your phone, all during your lunch break? Plague Inc. isn't just a silly mobile game you play on the toilet. The simulation uses real epidemic-driven data and disease transmission models that scientists actually study. The game shows how fast a deadly virus or even a zombie break could spread across the globe. And once you start playing, you'll never look at a pandemic or a zombie movie the same way again. Players quickly realize that the most successful pandemics start small and spread silently before symptoms appear, just like COVID taught us. It uses real-world ideas from disease experts and even caught the attention of the CDC. You start by infecting a single person and watch as airports, cities, and countries crumble. The most viral pandemics begin quietly. No symptoms, no panic until it's way too late. In the zombie mode called necrovirus, you don't just infect people, you turn them into the undead and manage massive hordes as governments fight back with martial law and military zones. The virus scenario specifically shows how a zombie pathogen would realistically spread across continents. The scariest part, it actually feels realistic. What makes Plague Inc. terrifying is how it reveals the harsh truth. Our modern connected world is perfectly designed for global extinction events. The game's creators consulted with the CDC, making it disturbingly accurate about how quickly society would collapse. In the necrovirus mode, you literally watch governments implement martial law, see borders close in real time, and witness the exact moment when military forces abandon their post. The game even simulates how zombie hordes would overwhelm refugee camps and safe zones, showing why every zombie movie gets the human element wrong. Players often discover that the real challenge isn't spreading the infection, it's timing the zombie resurrection perfectly to prevent humanity from developing a cure. As you progress, you unlock disturbing abilities like making zombies ignore the cold so they can spread in northern countries, or giving them enhanced smell to track survivors hiding in bunkers. The game forces you to think like a pandemic. You start in poor countries with weak healthcare systems, then spread to rich nations through airports and seaports while staying undetected. You'll see headlines pop up like state of emergency declared and mass graves dug in cities, and suddenly it doesn't feel like fiction anymore. The Technocyte virus in Warframe isn't your average plague. It's a bioengineered nightmare that fuses flesh and machine into something far more terrifying and honestly pretty badass. Originally created by the ancient Orican Empire as a weapon to fight an enemy called the Sentients, the virus quickly spiraled out of control. It infects living beings through spores, or physical contact, hijacking their bodies on a cellular level while keeping them painfully aware throughout the transformation. The result is the Infested, a grotesque swarm made up of former soldiers, workers, and civilians, now part of a massive hive mind spanning entire star systems. These creatures don't stumble around brainlessly. They straight up plot their enemy's demise and evolve rapidly to counter any threat. Even entire ships and buildings are consumed by the virus, turning cold metal into pulsating organic tunnels. Worst of all, the warframes themselves, your player's characters, were built using a controlled form of the same virus. In the lore of Warframe, the Orkan engineered a specific strain of the Technocyte virus, known as the Helminth virus, to create warframes. This was done to develop powerful soldiers to combat the sentients during the old war. The line between enemy and weapon is razor thin, and in the world of Warframe, the real horror isn't just the mutation, it's realizing how easily science and warfare can create something unstoppable. Sweet Home completely changes how we think about transformation, and it's way more messed up than anything you've seen before. This Korean horror series on Netflix doesn't use any virus or scientific explanation. Instead, people transform into monsters based on their deepest psychological desires and trauma. Shit reminds me of like a twisted Hellraiser transformation, and it's actually scary as hell to see. The monster outbreak starts when humans begin showing symptoms like nosebleeds and strange behaviors. But here's the crazy part. The final monster form reflects whatever dark thoughts were eating them alive inside. A suicidal person becomes a self-destructive creature, while someone filled with rage turns into a pure killing machine designed for violence. Sweet Home hits different because watching characters you care about slowly lose their humanity as the curse spreads through emotional breakdowns and despair really makes you truly feel bad for them. The series follows survivors trapped in a green home apartment complex as the world outside becomes a literal nightmare filled with crash-out monsters. These aren't mindless zombie hordes. They're intelligent creatures that can evolve, enter cocoon stages, and develop new abilities based on their human memories. Some people become special infectees who keep their human consciousness while gaining monster powers, creating this difficult gray area that makes you question what it means to be truly human. The scariest part isn't just the monster designs themselves, although for me, that's a large part of the fright, but it's realizing that just losing hope in this world and not having a strong will can literally transform you into the very monsters you're trying to survive against. Hunt Showdown 1896 brings us one of the most unique zombie apocalypse scenarios in gaming history. Set in Colorado and the Louisiana Bayou after a mysterious viral outbreak. These creatures aren't your typical brain-eating walkers. They're victims of something called the Sculptor, a supernatural entity that creates twisted monsters known as grunts, hives, and other nightmarish creatures while also causing the dead to reanimate. The zombie virus outbreak has taken over areas around New Orleans and a Colorado mining town, turning normal people into coordinated killing machines that are way smarter than regular zombies. Every bounty hunter in the game has to take a special serum called inoculation that protects them from the Sculptor's influence, because without it, you'd become one of these monsters just by walking into an infected area. The zombie survival horror gets intense when you realize you're not just fighting AI enemies. Other players are thrown into this environment, creating this crazy PvP situation where other players are in the mix hunting the same boss and aiming to steal the bounty. Boss fights against creatures like the spider will test your gaming skills for real, especially when this thing's moving super fast and crawls all over walls and ceilings. Shit reminded me of Aragorn and the spiders in that damn forbidden forest from Harry Potter. The assassin boss, made of swarming bugs that form a human shape, is another challenge that'll make you feel like you're playing Elden Ring. Hunt Showdown's excitement comes from the constant tension. Every step you take, you're torn between fighting off supernatural horrors and watching your back for rival hunters ready to ambush you and steal everything you survived and worked for. Dead Trigger delivers an awesome zombie apocalypse plot twist in mobile gaming. The entire outbreak was planned by rich elites who wanted to control the world's population. This isn't just another accidental leak story. This is straight up conspiracy theory type shit that makes you think twice about every zombie virus outbreak we've seen in this series. The zombie infection spreads incredibly fast and creates specialized zombie types. We're talking police zombies that remember their training, SWAT zombies with tactical knowledge, and massive Hulk zombies that can tear through walls like paper. What makes the Dead Trigger zombie virus unique is how it doesn't just bring back people from the dead, it somehow makes them stronger, faster, and more dangerous than they ever were alive. As Survivor Kyle, you're fighting with a group of survivors called New Hope against endless zombie waves of creatures that keep getting smarter with every mutation, and running out of ammo is considered an absolute fumble. Dead Trigger 2 zombie gameplay cranks up the difficulty with even bigger zombie hordes and boss monsters that'll test your zombie shooting thumb skills to the max. As you battle through upgraded zombies, you're not just fighting for survival. You're up against a hidden Illuminati-ass group of people pulling the strings to keep the nightmare going while everyone else is trapped in chaos, making sure humanity never finds a cure for their engineered zombie plague. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners drops you right into the nightmare of a zombie apocalypse triggered by one of the most chilling virus origins in fiction. This VR game was specifically designed by Skydance Interactive to give you one of the most immersive zombie apocalypse experiences possible, based primarily on Robert Kirkman's comic book series rather than the TV show. The whole disaster started with the Wildfire virus, which was almost certainly created in a French biomedical lab, La Biomédecine DDMI, around late 2009 or early 2010. Scientists were reportedly trying to cure diseases like Alzheimer's using experimental viruses designed to repair brain tissue, but things, of course, went sideways when the virus mutated, became airborne, and spread silently across the globe for months before anyone realized what was happening. By April 2010, the CDC had already picked up on its existence, and by August 25th, the wildfire was declared a global pandemic as society crumbled in a matter of weeks. The truly horrifying twist, directly reflecting the infamous TV show, everyone on Earth was infected whether they knew it or not, and when any person died, no matter how, they were reanimated as a walker. Saints and Sinners puts you in the flooded ruins of New Orleans, where the chaos from both the Walker outbreak and the aftermath of a hurricane has turned the city into a brutal survival zone. The danger isn't just the dead, it's the living, as you scavenge for supplies and craft weapons while facing off against ruthless human factions like the Tower and the Reclaimed, making every encounter a risky gamble. Walker types get nastier with unique variants lurking in the Louisiana swamps, and every moral decision you make impacts the world around you and your chances of survival in this nightmare where people can be even more dangerous than the monsters shambling through the streets. Netflix's Santa Clarita Diet takes zombie lore and flips it into this bizarrely wholesome family comedy where suburban mom Sheila Hammond becomes undead after eating some sketchy seafood. Bad clams turned her into a zombie, but these weren't just any clams. They were blood red clams found 90 meters deep in a Serbian cave, the same location where the original zombie outbreak began centuries ago. The show reveals that people become undead by consuming a Serbian zombie virus and throwing up a liver-red, organ-like ball which becomes a weird-ass spider, which is honestly one of the weirdest zombie transformation sequences I've ever seen in the series. Unlike traditional zombies, Sheila retains her personality, intelligence, and memories. She's just got this inconvenient fetish for human flesh and superhuman strength. The virus can spread through bites, but the infected don't immediately turn into mindless killing machines. Instead, they become these enhanced versions of themselves with zero impulse control. The show's take on zombie mythology focuses more on the domestic chaos of hiding your cannibalistic lifestyle from noisy neighbors while trying to maintain a normal family dynamic. The series got cancelled on a cliffhanger, but the Serbian connection suggests this outbreak has ancient origins tied to some seriously dark European folklore. Based on the DC Comics and Vertigo series by Chris Robertson and Michael Allred, iZombie turned the undead condition into something more like a manageable chronic illness than a death sentence. The zombie virus in this CW adaptation was created when this sus energy drink company Max Rager's synthetic party drug called Utopium gets mixed with their Red Bull style energy drink at a boat party, creating zombies instead of the intended euphoric sugar and caffeine high that the partygoers were chasing. Medical resident Olivia Liv Moore gets scratched during the chaos and wakes up as a zombie, retaining all memories, personality, and intelligence, while just needing to eat brains regularly to avoid going full-on Romero mode. The brilliant twist that makes this show kinda cool is that when zombies consume brains, they temporarily absorb the deceased person's memories and personality traits, which is how Liv ends up working at the coroner's office helping Detective Clive solve murder cases using the victim's own memories. The virus can spread through scratches and bites, but it can also be cured with a tainted utopium antidote that has dangerous side effects, creating this constant tension between staying zombie or risking death for a chance at humanity. The series builds towards an all-out zombie-human war, complete with underground zombie fight clubs, corporate conspiracies involving Max Rager's cover-ups, and a systematic zombie experimentation that makes Big Pharma look like amateur hour compared to the military-industrial complex trying to weaponize the undead. While Wolfenstein isn't technically a zombie franchise, the zombie experiments with undead super soldiers and occult resurrection creates some seriously zombie-adjacent nightmare fuel that deserves recognition. The Nazi regime in this alternate timeline combines advanced technology with supernatural practice of hidden knowledge and powers to create unstoppable undead warriors that can take multiple headshots and keep it pushing. These reanimated super soldiers are products of General Death Sheet's twisted experiments that blend cutting-edge robotics with necromantic rituals, creating cybernetic zombies that are part machine, part corpse, and completely terrifying. I don't know why, but every time Nazis in Germany are involved, they're always doing some twisted weird shit with these serums. The virus, or process that creates these undead soldiers, isn't fully explained, but it involves a combination of chemical enhancement, surgical modification, and what appears to be supernatural resurrection techniques borrowed from ancient Germanic mythology. These tactical nightmares use advanced weapons, coordinate attacks, and can survive damage that would drop a normal human instantly. The series escalates through different zombie cyborg variants, including flamethrower units, heavy armor variants, and even undead mech pilots that blur the lines between technology and zombie enhanced. The difficulty spikes come from the combination of advanced AI, overwhelming firepower, and fighting enemies that should be dead but refuse to stay down. Imagine if zombies could perfectly disguise themselves as normal humans and infiltrate your community before revealing their true nature. That's the nightmare scenario in Survivalist, Invisible Strain, a colony-building survival sim that takes zombie horror to psychological levels. This isn't just another zombie game where you can spot the undead from a mile away. The Invisible Strain creates infected individuals who look, act, and behave exactly like regular survivors until they suddenly turn and attack your settlement from within. The game features multiple infection strains with different incubation periods and symptoms, including green, blue, red, and white variants that each present unique challenges and levels of aggression once they fully manifest. The Invisible Strain virus spreads through airborne particles, contaminated water sources, and direct contact. But the terrifying twist is that the infected can remain hidden in your community for days or even weeks before showing visible symptoms like skin discoloration and increased aggression. Players must constantly assess every new survivor who joins their settlement, looking for subtle behavioral changes, unusual eating patterns, or other warning signs that someone might be carrying the Invisible Strain pathogen. You'll manage complex community relationships while building defensive structures, researching treatments, and making brutal decisions about quarantining suspected carriers, even when you're not completely sure they're infected. The difficulty escalates as infected hordes grow more coordinated and aggressive over time. forcing players to balance the desperate need for new community members against the constant risk that any new arrival could be the invisible strain carrier that destroys everything you've built. Okay, hold up. Anime zombie idols that can actually sing and dance without decomposing on stage? Zombieland Saga completely breaks every zombie rule you know and somehow makes it work perfectly. The story follows 7 legendary zombie girls resurrected by the mysterious Kotaro Tatsumi as part of his insane plan to revive Saga Prefecture's declining entertainment industry through the power of undead idol performances. They're fully conscious, personality intact zombie performers who retain all their memories, skills, and quirks from their original lives, spanning different historical periods. The resurrection process is never fully explained, but Kotaro clearly has access to some serious necromantic knowledge that can bring back people who died decades or even centuries apart. What makes this concept brilliant is that the girls have to hide their zombie nature from the public while performing, which creates this constant tension between their undead reality and idol personas. The series explores each girl's tragic death story, from a legendary 80s idol who died in a plane crash to a courtesan from the Meiji era, and how they adapted to modern idol culture while dealing with the psychological trauma of being dead. The lore gets deeper as the series progresses, hinting at Kotaro's mysterious past connections to some of the girls and his obsessive dedication to this zombie idol experiment that borders on unhinged supernatural stalking. Set in 1941 Thailand during the Japanese invasion, Operation Undead takes zombie horror and mixes it with World War II historical drama to create something genuinely terrifying. The Japanese forces brings with them a biological weapon that they think will guarantee victory, but this terrifying virus, of course, has its own agenda and turns both invaders and defenders into flesh-hungry monsters. Young Thai soldiers Mok and his cutthroat unit find themselves fighting a two-front war against Japanese invaders and the undead nightmare that's consuming everyone in its path. The biological weapon appears to be some kind of engineered pathogen that the Japanese military developed, possibly through human experimentation. But like most zombie virus origins, the creators severely underestimated what they were unleashing. The film shows how quickly organized military units fall apart when facing an enemy that can't be negotiated with, scared off, or reasoned with. The virus spreads through the jungle warfare environment, turning the dense Southeast Asian landscape into a perfect breeding ground for zombie hordes that are adapted to tropical survival conditions. Operation Undead stands out because it combines legitimate historical warfare with zombie survival horror, showing how regular soldiers would realistically react when all that training shit becomes useless against enemies that should be dead.